Well, for secondary students, I can speak to that. I mean, I think it promotes organization, determination, organizational skills, study skills. It gives them the drive to see beyond the traditional classroom of academics, but also beyond to the world of music, fine arts. And so for us, it provides a well-rounded education for a lot of our students. And like I said, embodies all the other things that they need to be successful in the academic classroom.
I think for elementary students, early music education helps improve cognitive growth, which would help them in all core academic areas. But also it's been shown to help with math and reading, with reading fluency, and you can use music in the language arts curriculum. You can use art in math to integrate the subjects and make it more meaningful for students, and they have higher achievement if you do that.
Well, I don't know if a lot of students know this, but I play guitar, so music has impacted my life greatly. Again, being able to take an instrument, learn it, play it, it creates a certain level of accomplishment in your life, and so it's impacted me greatly with that regard. But I like music in general impacts my life daily, because I always love to see when people can take a talent and impact other people's lives with that talent in a productive way, and that's what music does for me. I think it does that for a lot of people. So, yeah, music has a great impact.
One of the things I'll say, how music has impacted my life, ever since I was a little young kid, I always wanted to be Stevie Wonder, and again, playing music. Didn't have any instruments, so being a little poor kid I was, we had some paint cans around the house. I was taking spoons and beating them on cans and things like that, and, putting water in different cups, trying to make different noises and sounds. For me, music started there for me. My second experience with music was in the 4th grade, playing the recorder, and I remember the first song, learned Hot Cross Buns, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Those are my first starts in the music world. Now, I can't hold a tune, and I play very little instruments, but that's always been a joy of mine, to want to play an instrument. And so as I look back and reflect now, I think as I go forward in life, one of the things I will always do is remember the basics I learned in music. It'll drive me for the future when I become older, because there are many things I enjoy now. I'm not so sure I'll be able to enjoy them when I hit the retirement ages. But music and the arts itself be things that would transcend age, and I'll be able to continue with those down in the future as well. Now, to answer your other question, though, how has music supported, how do we support music education in Finneytown? Music is a true core course here, and it's a true center of who we are as Finneytown. So how we've supported it, though. We supported a music program this year as a part of our curriculum revision. We provided $64,000 for instruments that we're providing at the secondary level, so we can then take the older equipment and transfer it down to our middle school, our 3-6 building, let's say middle school, 3-6 area. And the reason for that is this: we want to provide opportunities for all kids to be able to use instruments. We have to then provide a plan as well. So some of that is in thinking about the support. We provide the money this year for instruments at the secondary level. We're looking at also a plan for the 15-16 school year and add more money there. So every kid will have opportunity to be able to be the Tyrone Overson, the kid who plays hot cross buns or whatever instruments, but then allow that kid to then come through the system, grades 5 through 12, and play an instrument. Because what I didn't share in the other story was I did not continue on with music because, one, I could not afford an instrument.
When I first student taught, we didn't have a music teacher, so that was the first time I ever actually had to teach music education, and I think it's very important that you have people that are highly qualified to do music education. But we had some training in it, and our students benefit so much from having that program that Finneytown can afford to provide that. And supports having music education throughout the K through 12 curriculum. But as an individual, I mean, I had experiences with music education. All the schools I attended offered that, and I was in band all 4 years of high school. That was my social group, and I think it was something that motivated me to be successful in school, and it was a big source of enjoyment for me in high school.
I would say for me, how's it impacted me as an individual? I remember in math class, you know, in algebra, or I think it was algebra class, we were talking about fractions or something like that. I remember the teacher said, you know what, I'm not going to try to teach you through mathematics. I'm going to teach you first through music, because everyone in that class that I had a basic math class, and started talking about notes, half notes, quarter notes, whole notes, three-quarter notes, and so forth. And it started, the whole lesson started out talking about music. So we're all into listening to music, and next thing I know, we're now learning math and using fractions. So for me, it wasn't just about music, it was really taking music and using it in the core academic area.
Music education, I mean, obviously, having played guitar, you know, gone through lessons and things, obviously that was a wealth of a lot of good things. But I'll go back to a funny story. I mean, music education for me impacted me here most at Finneytown. We had a situation where we had a band director leave, and it was all good, but the administrative team had to put together band camp. And so music education for me, I learned so much about what goes into a program, from the kids aspect, from the band directors, from the support staff, and how much it really involves, and how much determination it takes, and how much organization it takes, and how much money it takes, and how much just everything that surrounds music education that makes it great, and a great experience for young kids and for students. It's not, from an outsider looking in, music education may look like some kids blowing on some horns or beating on some drums or doing something, but when you get to a level of you know, a high school or secondary campus, there's so much more going on behind the scenes that you never see unless you get involved. And I think band parents see it. I think obviously people who teach music see it, but sometimes our community and even our own administrative team don't always necessarily see what's going on behind the scenes, and the level of commitment it takes, not only from the staff part, but it's also a huge commitment for the students. The outside hours they put into practicing, the outside hours they put into a lot of things. And so, yeah, that's how it impacts me. Yes, I mean, I always speak about the music program every opportunity that presents itself. Certainly have not been necessarily part of any formalized process, but our community basically is a fine arts community. I mean, you look at the data, you look at the level of involvement across the board of all of our programs, from music to choirs, to fine arts and drawing, to theater. This is really a fine arts community. So, I mean, you look at holistically, the music program in and of itself is a huge part of what Finneytown is, and who it will continue to be, as long as we have dedicated staff and dedicated people to make that meaningful for kids. And so, yeah, I could certainly speak to the community with regards to that.
And I second what David says. I see music here as the core to everything else that we have in Finneytown. And I think, and I say the core, look at the number of students that's involved in that program, and then how those same kids involved in other programs. If you had to look at any one program, there are more kids involved in our music program than any other program that we have in this district. So in speaking to the parents about music and its importance to the community of Finneytown, I have no problem with speaking to the community about that, because I think, again, it's a core to everything that we do. I think for us, though, I think we have to then start to tout us as such, and saying that Finneytown is a music community, it's a fine arts community, and then start putting resources behind just that notion.
I think adding the arts into the STEM education makes a lot of sense. It broadens the number of students that will get involved based on their interest in the arts. Arts fit in well with design and engineering. It's part of what they do, and I think it makes it more interesting, and the more integrated it is, the more students are going to want to be involved, and the more they're going to learn. I also think that so many kids who enjoy the arts, that would motivate them to get involved with the science, technology, and math that may not otherwise. So I think it's a win-win for everyone to promote STEAM over STEM. How would we promote it over STEM education? I mean, I think it's just a district buy-in, what the district chooses to do, and we've already chosen to promote STEAM over STEM.
Yeah, and again, I second that. I think there are a lot when you start thinking about STEAM itself, you start looking at the emotional connectors and involvement of the individual students here within our district. Because again, as I said earlier, the arts is such a foundation for everything that we do. It only makes sense to make it STEAM versus STEM here. I don't think you can. I don't think you do any of the other science, technology, or mathematics without incorporating the arts anyway, because it's just a connector. Also look at the STEAM aspect that we talk about here in our district as the impetus for jumping off into other areas. As we start to go wider and to explore other opportunities for students, I think STEAM is that notion that we have to go with, and using arts as a foundation for growing programs. An example may be like the RE engineering program, and I'll let David kind of talk about that program.
Yeah, I mean, we're also looking at ways to engage students. I see STEAM being a way where obviously it involves music programming, but we also are looking for ways to engage the disengaged students. So you've got band and all the musical programs that are certainly engaging a lot of students, but there's also other opportunities for us to take other fine art areas and more arts areas and pull in yet another whole layer of students that we're looking at. So I mean, the arts for Finneytown produces engagement for kids, and we're going to continue to ride that because this community is drawn to it, our students are drawn to it, and that's kind of who we are. So we're going to look at different ways of bringing in all kinds of different arts. So STEAM makes perfect sense versus STEM.
And when thinking about that, one of the things, I know we have over 100 students right now in our music program. You know, the goal for me long term would really be including half of our student population involved in the music program. And some, I wouldn't say just music, but in some fine arts aspect of our district, because the more kids we have involved, we all know this, the more kids are involved, the less likely they are to have other challenges. It also gives them another, again, a social connection, a relationship piece for being here at school. Who are our kids here with? Just as we're in the library right now, we have kids working on the computers. Why? Because they feel connected to the school. Can you imagine, out of the 750 kids, 350 kids still hanging out on campus, wanting to be involved in something? I can see that. I envision that happening within 3 years. What are the limitations to that right now? One, instruments, time of individuals, because we're limited on the number of individuals we have to work for us. Also, I would say some capital resources. You know, the district can provide monies to seed certain programs, but again, it's building that capacity. We're going to have to get supporters from outside our own community, businesses, the churches, donors, to help support our cause, because again, we do want to increase our sizes from 100 to 350 kids being involved in activities here at the school.
I'd like to see it more integrated throughout the curriculum, because I think that would improve our curriculum. I think the students it would engage them more in other subject areas and benefit everyone.
I would just like to obviously continue the path that we're on and grow by sustainability. I mean, Finneytown has a changing demographic. There is a higher need. I think in general, with the economy and situations, we are seeing some continued financial challenges from our families. And so it is going to be a challenge to keep the level of participation and engagement up by finding unique ways to provide funds to have kids involved, to have kids engaged in these programs. And so I would like to see us, change that piece of it and have the funding available to keep the level and sustainability of kids participating in the programs. That's going to be a challenge, but it can also be a huge piece to seeing us grow. If we can meet that need and increase engagement over a declining financial landscape, I think that's a tall challenge, and I think we can do it, but it's going to take some unique situations to get some funding. And so I'd like to see us, not decline in participation enrollment, but grow and meet that financial challenge for families to participate. That's a huge piece.
And I second what David has said, and thinking about us, the administrative team, also working with the music teachers and figuring out how can we continuously grow the program. I don't have a music background. I have to rely on the individuals within our music department, and they're very strong individuals. I would like, see what their ideas are and how we grow this over the next 5 years. Thinking about, we have general music now at the kindergarten coming in through 12th grade, but how then do we incorporate Suzuki violin, just use that example, at the lower levels? How do we get the funding for such a program? How do we look at after school, some kind of I wouldn't say not the traditional band, but a different type of band, jazz band, or just a different kind of music, and how do we include these different music programs over the next 5 years? Music with technology is another one, and so, but again, it's us working, the administrative team working with the music teachers here and laying out a plan over the next 5 years to really get all kids involved in some aspect of music. Again, looking at the Usher program, say music, but this is really the business side of music. This is the background side, the production side, producing. It's not the instrumentation, but a different aspect, the business angle of it. So I would like to see, again, the administration continuously work with the music staff here and us to lay out a plan over the next 5 years. How do we grow this? I think one of our challenges, David has mentioned, was a financial aspect. We want to include more students in these programs, but from a financial standpoint, we don't have the capacity. And so I reach out to our community, I reach out to donors, I reach out to businesses here and say that we need additional support, whether it be human capital or a dollar capital. We just need support so we can, again, continuously provide a good foundation for the kids here at Finneytown, and again, become a model for what other communities can do as well. And thinking about a world-class music program, I think we've already started with the foundation. We have a K-12 music program right now, but I look at world-class as us really exploring all the things we've been talking about so far. Us looking at the program over the next 5 years and planning and growing our programs to meet our diverse needs of learners here within our district, and also how do we then meet those financial obligations to help students be provided with these enriched opportunities. I think that's the key to it. And world class, I think world class is, again, it says just that. World class is relative to what organization you're looking at. How can we become world class to us and lead by example to other organizations? It's creating the things that we talked about over the next 5 years, different programming. It's us reaching out and having at least, again, the goal will be half our kids at the secondary campus being involved in some type of music program. That's world class to me, because when we walk out of here as Finneytown and one family. And again, I think one of the things that's a challenge for us as Finneytown is we have a population that's included right now. But it's about bringing everyone together, and all of us feel like we're part of this. So you have half the students performing, you have half the students watching. So I look at that being world class. World class from the standpoint, you have our special needs students who are enjoying the fine arts just as well as our traditional students. And I think we're already moving toward that. World class is what we're doing right now at Whitaker, and starting with some programs at Whitaker right now, and really trying to grow their programs. Us taking instrumentation from the secondary, the older things, and putting them at the elementary level so the students there can use them. That's what I look at as being world class, And in 5 years, what will world class look like then? It's going to be different. It's going to be a different look. But I think right now we're moving in the right direction of what world class is. We're providing K-12 music for all students, a good solid foundation, and we'll continuously work with the teachers to continuously build outwardly to build this world class organization.
Everything's constantly changing with all the technology that's evolving. I could see that being more of a part of the program as well, that students might be using technology and also presenting their learning using music and fine arts aspects, and that goes back to the STEAM, that they'd be producing and presenting their learning in a professional way with all those pieces.
World class, obviously from a little bit closer perspective, it's opportunities for kids. It's going to be like Mr. Olverson said. How are we engaging students in as many ways as possible through the fine arts and music, particularly the music, and how we're going to do that, and then also becoming a model for other schools. The biggest thing in education is learning from other schools and learning from other situations that are similar to yours. And so maybe world class to me also would be Finneytown becoming a place where schools of similar size or demographics can come and say, this is something we're doing really well. How can we help them? And so it's expanding beyond our local community and becoming more broad and helping others, helping other kids, other schools, helping our kids. And so it's just all that encompassed in that piece, along with everything else that's been mentioned. I think we're on the right track to do that here at Finneytown. We've been on that track, and our kids are extremely successful from participation and dedication from our staff. Like I said, our biggest challenge will be how do we continue to fund it, and how do we go global and world-class and have funding come in from outside of our local community. Our local community funds our schools probably as much as any community. They pay the taxes, they pass the levies, they raise the money, but it's going to take more than just our community to keep our program on the right track and moving upwards. It's going to take funding from outside to do that. Our community just doesn't have more to give. They're giving 110%, and we need to come alongside them and find ways to support that. So that, to me, that embodies world class. It's helping others as well as, helping our own students.
I look at music as the brainchild for our district. So goes our music program, so goes our academic learning of our community. So if I had to have any one parting ways, I would say, so goes music, so goes the learning of Finneytown.
I think that's true. Before I moved to Cincinnati, I met some people from Finneytown, and I asked them to tell me about Finneytown, and they said Finneytown values the fine arts. That's exactly what they said, and that was a really long time ago, and never even knew I'd end up here. But I mean, it's a long tradition of people valuing the arts, so that is what drives Finneytown, and we should capitalize on that, support that, and use it to engage students in learning.
All I can say is that we have a very dedicated staff with very dedicated students who produce great work and great things. That's kind of my final thought. And my job in leadership is to make sure that those programs like that get what they need and continue to grow. And that's what we have here at Finneytown, and we are Finneytown.